afternoon, or good evening, depending upon where you are in the world, and welcome to today's webinar, part 2 of the EIM Summer Expert Webinar Series. Today's event is entitled Maximizing Data Integrity with SAP Information Steward. Is your organization ready? Hosted by SAP Insider and presented by Decision First Technologies. I'm Steve Paul, and I'm your moderator today. We have just a few announcements before we begin. This webinar is designed to be interactive between you and our presenter. There is no dial-in required, so you can listen through your computer speakers, or you can use the audio available via call-in numbers as provided. You can participate in our Q&A session by asking questions about the information presented in this webinar at any time. Just type your question into the text box located at the bottom right of your console. We'll answer as many questions as time permits after our presentation. Later in our program, we will also ask for your feedback. There is a survey once you exit the event. We appreciate your participation in our survey. Slides will advance automatically throughout our event, and a link to download a PDF copy of the slides and a link to the archive recording will be sent to you over the next few days. So at this time, we recommend you disable your pop-up blockers. If you're experiencing any technical problems, please visit our webinar help guide by clicking on the help link in the upper right-hand corner of your console. And now on to our presentation, Maximizing Data Integrity with SAP Information Steward. Discussing today's topic will be Rich Hauser. Rich is a business intelligence consultant specializing in enterprise information management. He has delivered customized SAP business object solutions for customers of all sizes across a variety of industries. And with Decision First Technology, Rich utilizes SAP Data Services and SAP Information Steward. And now I'd like to just turn it over to Rich.
Thanks a lot, Steve. I'd also like to say thank you to SAP Insider for hosting today's event, and thanks to all the attendees who are with us here today on today's webinar. Just like to give a quick background on Decision First Technologies. We are a business intelligence and data warehousing consulting company. We provide end-to-end implementation for SAP business objects. We're certified in both SAP HANA and for SAP support. We were the Education Partner of the Year for SAP 2010 and 2011 and have been the Business Objects Partner of the Year for many years in a row. We were founded in 2001. And we currently have engagements, or have had engagements, with over 1,000 customers in the last 12 years. And here are some of our partners that we use to implement our business intelligence solutions. In this session today, we'll discuss SAP Information Steward and data governance programs and how they require ongoing process monitoring and enhancement. We'll find that the installation and configuration is actually the easy part. The hard part is implementing the data governance program. We'll talk about how to select the right mix of resources and skills to make that data governance program a success. We'll also discuss collaboration methods and negotiation tactics to decide on business terms and data quality rules. And finally, we'll show how SAP Information Steward fits into a successful data governance project. So a quick rundown of the sections that we'll go through are what is data governance, what defines a successful data governance effort, how SAP Information Steward fits. We'll go through a demo, and then we will wrap up with Q&A. If you're wondering what is data governance, believe me, you're certainly not alone. A data governance program is a core business process that ensures that data is treated as a corporate asset and formally managed throughout the enterprise. We use the term process, not a project, because this is not a simple one-off project where you set an end. It is an ongoing process and program for all of your data quality requirements. We also say data is a corporate asset because we believe that you need to treat it as you would any other corporate asset. It should be a major part of your company's competitive advantage. A result of a successful data governance program is that it will ensure your data can be trusted and that it's worthy of trust. In other words, that your data is of high quality. One thing to note, a very important piece, is that data governance policies are evolutionary in nature. And we'll see evolution because a successful data governance program is constantly evolving and changing to meet your changing business needs and your business environment dynamics. We also find that a successful data governance program usually implements a data governance group as an objective entity. For true success, you're going to want to make sure that your governance group is not too closely aligned with IT or one business unit over another. Data governance is the marriage of data quality, which simply means that data is fit for its intended use, and also the marriage of information management and policies. For example, your corporate data management policies and procedures, and also regulatory compliance policies and data security policies. These should be independent of individual business units. These policies are for your entire enterprise, and the focus should be on the data, not on the politics that may surround it. It is also the management of both business processes and risks, and like mentioned earlier, it evolves over time and is constantly changing. So to start a data governance initiative within your company, we suggest first defining what it means to your company. You need to start with that definition before you can truly put together a goal. Second, you're going to want to choose a key initiative as a test case. Try to select an area that is high visibility, also with many pain points. This tends to engage stakeholders if they have the option to see a piece of the company fixed and data quality improved within that area. Think about what will get people's attention if it's repaired. Also, you'll want to start with something small enough so that you can succeed in your first effort and build off of that success into other areas. You'll want to define simple metrics for your governance program that can be easily measured and tracked, such as setting a goal for a certain percentage improvement in the quality of your customer address data, or setting a goal on a certain percentage reduction in time that data is massaged or fixed by your business end users. Fourth, you'll want to align your stakeholders with your test case. Choose the correct people to include in this first project, and don't bring everyone to the table. Fifth, you'll want to document and communicate as much as possible. Ensure a communication feedback loop exists and is being used, most importantly. And recognize that constant communication is key. Some ideas on documentation and communicating are keeping issues logs, creating RACI charts, as well as holding weekly or semi-weekly progress meetings. Finally, you'll want to leverage the success that you've earned in that first initial portion of your governance program and learn from the mistakes that you made as well. You want to snowball that initial success to build momentum and start in other areas. And of course, learn from your mistakes and try to correct them moving forward. So an example of an SAP Information Steward project to start a data governance initiative would be using the Metapedia module to populate a corporate data dictionary. Many corporations already have some kind of existing data dictionary within a legacy piece of software or even in Excel documents spread throughout the company. But if you're able to consolidate all of those silos into one area within SAP Information Steward, that being the Metapedia module, this might be something that will quickly show value to the business. Also remember, don't get bogged down in the weeds. Try to aim small and deliver. Show that you can deliver value on a specific goal, and the business will come around to seeing the value for the overall project and process. Second, define a successful data governance effort. You'll want to adopt a structure that has been successful in your organization in the past. Leverage your existing corporate processes and existing change management program. Don't try to reinvent the wheel here. Make the program as painless as possible to implement. Remember that data governance spans your entire enterprise, so this is about both people and processes. People need to be engaged. This isn't just another IT project. The business involvement is mandatory. Without it, you cannot steer the ship and decide where you want to go. As with any project that involves people, expect resistance and politics, which is very similar to any other change within an organization. But appeal to people's self-interest to get them involved. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. Consider steering committees, advisory boards, or a data-oriented competency center to get your project moving. Also, reuse existing teams if you have them. For example, we've seen clients with a data management team. They're usually further ahead of the game for these data governance programs. Finally, as with anything in a data governance program, you need to review and reorganize constantly. It's never a static process, and it will constantly evolve. So how do you choose the right people for the team? Well, you'll need a good mix of both business and IT technical, about a 50-50 split. IT needs to be there to facilitate the technical portion of the project, but the business people need to be there also for the functional input and for the true understanding of the data. There may be some in these first meetings as the two sides don't always see eye to eye. But remind the IT team to serve the business and remind the business that the IT team is there to help them. Executive involvement in this program is mandatory. This cannot be overstated enough. Without executive, we have not seen a successful data governance program. Not only does this show the business that the executives are committed to it, but it also shows the business that they're committed to investing in data as a company asset. Also, it is essential to find people that know the business very well. So it may be better to have business people learn the Information Steward tool rather than IT people try to learn how the business works and how data is produced. Finally, you're going to want to find people that will foster collaboration about the data across the organization. Look for bridge builders, not necessarily brilliant technicians. A couple of examples of people that would fit this description are IT people with good soft skills or people skills, or business people with a very solid technical understanding or understanding of data. Also, these people need to possess collaborative intent. You need to be interested in hearing the other side of the argument. You need IT people that will hear the business and business people that will hear the IT as well. Collaboration is key. And as for negotiation tactics, think about the other side. How do you make them interested? What's in it for them? Appeal to their self-interest. A couple of examples of that might be for IT people. You can appeal to their self-interest by saying you'll spend less time putting out fires, more time doing more interesting strategic work. And for business people, appeal to their self-interest by saying you will spend less time massaging and fixing the data, more time actually analyzing and answering interesting questions. Also, make sure they know the driving factors behind this. What will be the result from a successful program? How will the business improve? And finally, try to diminish politics as much as possible, foster a collaborative spirit for the success of the entire company. So how does SAP Information Steward fit within this data governance program? Well, it provides a single platform to discover, assess, define, monitor, and improve the quality of your data. It's a passive tool in the sense that you cannot fix or change source data directly within the tool. Rather, it's more a window into how data is being produced and the quality of it as it changes over time. Users are able to do the following tasks. They're able to profile data with complex data profiling options. For those that aren't familiar with data profiling, it is simply examining data to collect statistics about that data. You're able to create and run validation rules that are then aggregated into data quality scorecards. You're able to see relationships of metadata from sources all the way that are used in reports. And this is called impact and lineage analysis. You're also able to manage a data dictionary, as mentioned before with the Metapedia module. And you're able to create and develop complex data cleansing rules and dictionaries for use in SAP data services. The data insight module of SAP Information Steward is the data profiling module. Anyone that's familiar with a data profiling tool will be familiar with the simple column profiling of showing the percentage of mins, maxes, nulls, and word patterns in the column. But you're also able to profile the data in more complex ways, such as address profiling, which checks the validity of addresses in just one screen. Dependency profiling, which checks the dependency of one or many columns to a primary column. Redundancy profiling, which checks overlaps between two sets of data. And uniqueness, which returns the count and percentage of non-unique data. Another great use for the data profiling tool would be for data integration projects as well. You're able to remove any assumption about source system data and see real statistics behind it. These profiling tasks can be scheduled within the central management console, which is the main administrative tool for Information Steward. And once they're scheduled, you're able to measure the quality of your data over time, seeing how it's either improving, hopefully, or getting worse. And also, you're able to see and isolate any data disruptions that occur. Within Data Insight, you're also able to create complex quality validation rules. These check whether data complies with business-defined constraints and requirements. And passing or failing rules generate scores that are configurable. Rules are also reusable and can be bound to many different columns or tables. And then you're able to create visualizations based on those results into complex data quality scorecards, which are just a visualization of the aggregation of your validation rules. We'll see a little bit more on that within the demo. The second module of Information Steward is the Metadata Manager, which provides an integrated view of metadata across both the BI and operational landscape. You can see how data is related no matter where it resides, platform independent. The tool is very good at recognizing relationships between objects and between systems, and users can define relationships between those objects as well. Metadata would include the following information: attributes about a column, structures about a table, properties such as where this object is located, how it's associated and related to other objects, and the ownership of that object, as well as descriptive information about context, quality and condition, or characteristics of the data. Information Steward organizes metadata from many different integrator source systems, including business intelligence, business objects enterprise, data integration systems such as data services, and data insights are also included in the metadata directory as well. You can navigate and analyze the relationships between tables, columns, universe objects, reports, and also documents created within SAP Business Objects. And you can also use the third-party MIDI connector to connect to a wide variety of metadata. Metapedia is the third module within Information Steward. It allows you to implement a glossary of terms related to your business data and then organize those terms into hierarchies. It will also allow you to link those terms to the metadata objects which were populated within the metadata management portion of Information Steward. The great use case for Metapedia is to provide a single place to go for a corporation to view their data dictionary. You don't need to go to various business teams in order to get the definition. You have all definitions right in one place. There's also a robust security module that allows you to assign either authorship rights to a term, approver rights, and then administrative rights as well. Finally, there's a cleansing package builder, which provides a graphical user interface to create and refine cleansing packages that are then used by SAP Data Services. And it allows you to build and maintain custom dictionaries for completely custom data cleansing, as well as alter the SAP supplied data cleansing packages. Something to note is that this module has the closest IT tie as it requires IT for the final data services code. So for example, with the cleansing package builder, packages are organized into categories, which consist of attributes that are then broken down into variations, and finally, a standard form for how the cleansing package should display the final result. So for example, for a category of glove, you'd have 3 attributes of material, color, and size. Within each attribute, you have a few different variations of how that attribute may be realized. And then finally, you have your standard form of how you want your data to appear when each variations is used. So as you can see, within the size, you could have small, medium, or large, but each of those variations could show up as many different things. They could be spelled out, they could be a single letter, and you will decide how you want it to appear within your final data warehouse or wherever you may store that data. So now we'll cover a quick, about 15-minute demonstration of SAP Information Steward. And just a quick note that we'll be using version 4.1 of the product. I will log out and back in, make sure we have a fresh session. And we're taken to the main homepage, which is Data Insight. You can see the different modules across the top here: Data Insight, Metadata Management, Metapedia, and the Cleansing Package Builder. Within Data Insight, the projects are broken out here. These are controlled through the Central Management Console. And if you enter into a project, you see a list of connections that you have included within this project. And these connections are also defined through the Central Management Console. Expanding a will show you the list of tables that you've imported into the project. And expanding a table will give you information on data profiling tasks that have been run in the past. For our employee table example here, we have attributes such as the actual properties of the table, the min and max values within that column, an average value in that column where appropriate, attributes such as string length, min, max, and average of the values within a column, and finally some more advanced data profiling, which includes the number of distinct values within a column, the patterns of values within a column, and the words within a column as well. These all fall under the basic data profiling. The more advanced data profiling includes things such as redundancy, where if we show the redundancy between the employee table to the person table, we would expect to see all employees in our person table. However, out of the 2 plus 288 people in the employee table, we see that 288 are contained within the person table, but we also have only 2 that are in the employee but not in person, meaning that we've just found 2 orphan records, which we can drill into and see the records for those. There's also the address data profiling. In this case, you'd see the percentage that have invalid addresses, valid addresses, and correctable addresses. In this case, the AdventureWorks database looks like it used mostly fake addresses, so the majority are invalid. However, we do have a small portion that are correctable. And as this particular profiling task is scheduled, we can see as well how it would improve over time. The other advanced task is the uniqueness one, which I've performed on the sales order detail table. And when the set of columns order detail ID and order ID are run for uniqueness, we see 100% uniqueness, which is what we would expect in a sales order detail table. But if I were to run it on just the sales order ID column within the detail table, we'll see that we do not have a non-unique record set, also as would be expected within an order detail table. The Data Insight module also allows you to create views, which could be a subset of columns within a table or even columns from multiple tables that are joined together. What I've done here is use the employee person join and run a dependency task on the gender and title columns. And what we'll see is that for males, the values are either null or Mr. in the title, And for female, the values are either null or Ms. So you can see that the two columns of gender and title are somewhat dependent on each other. The Data Insight module also contains the validation rule creation, where you can input your unique business rules and then run those rules with data. In this particular rule, we've said that we need to look for any records that are over 80 hours of vacation hours and flag those as a bad record. So if we drill into the rule binding, we'll see the records that failed this particular rule. All of these records will have vacation hours of greater than 80 days, which we've decided are bad records. If we go through a few different rules, we'll see that the score colors are changing. And you control the color of that score with these thresholds here, which are 100% configurable. Finally, these rules are aggregated into scorecards, which is the data quality visualization component of Information Steward. They are grouped into logical groupings, such as either customer or employee, also included in all. And these groupings are called key data domains. Within these key data domains, we see quality scores for the overall domain, as well as scores for the questions contained within the domain as well. If we hover over a few of these, we'll see the quality for each dimension. I'd also like to mention the quality dimensions. There's a standard set with the tool, but they're also can be completely configured. You're able to drill cards, give a little more detail of what rules contained within each data domain and data quality dimension, and first for the rules and rule bindings as well. Again, you could also see trend data here if you've been running this for multiple days or multiple weeks on end. If we switch workspace, the scorecard is completely controlled through the scorecard setup. And I'd also like to mention Information Steward can look directly at flat files. Those can be connected within this tab here. And finally, all of the profile tasks are run and edited through the task, the bottom tab here, excuse me. The only different portion that you might edit a task would be within the central management console, which is where you would go to schedule tasks. The next module is the metadata management area. The main page is the directory where you'll see any systems that have been run. For example, a BW system, which falls under a business intelligence system. I have profiled the data services repository, which falls under a data integration system. And then also you have your data insight connections here, which automatically appear whenever you put a particular to the enterprise project of the data insight module. You can navigate through each one of these systems where all of your metadata objects will appear. In the case of BW, we have data sources, data store objects, info areas, info cubes, etc. And as you drill into different components, let's open up the info cube area. You'll see metadata about that particular object. If we drill into the sales cube, the will reflect the focused object. And we can also view impact and lineage of that object as well. What the impact and lineage will show is how a change to a particular object will affect things downstream object. And also, if you view the lineage, you can see what objects the focused object depends on. So in the case of the sales cube, we can see all of the different DSOs and transformations taking place, as well as all of the data sources, the complete lineage of that object. Within this particular screen, you can change the focus to any one of these objects. I'll change the focus to this database. Not much lineage for this particular object, but let's view the impact. We'll see that this database is actually used in a wide variety of areas. A lot of different DSOs and cubes are dependent on it, including and even some multi-providers and queries downstream. And if this is a little busy, we can always switch the view to tabular, which will break all of the objects down into the number of steps removed from the selected or the focused object. So finally, we're coming to the Metapedia module of Information Steward, which is the data dictionary. You notice that all terms appear on the All Terms tab, and there are some different icons here which represent a few different things. The pencil indicates a term has been created but is still in editing mode. The arrow indicates that the term has been finished and submitted for approval by an appropriate member of your organization. And finally, the green check mark means that it has been approved and is ready for use throughout the entire enterprise. Terms are grouped into categories, which are themselves hierarchical. And a term can be a member of multiple categories. So for example, the person term is a member of both the sales category and the HR category. Once a term has been approved, it is also able to be associated with a metadata management object. So whenever a term can be correlated to an object within your metadata dictionary, you can make that association, and then that object is available to be clicked on and drilled into for metadata about that particular object. The descriptions and the columns for this particular table will appear. And from this page, you'll notice that we're back in the Metadata Management module, so we can go and view impact and lineage as we did previously with the sales cube. The cleansing package builder was touched on in the presentation, but I won't dive too deeply into it here since it is a more technical portion of the product. But just know that that is a graphical user interface which allows you to create or alter data cleansing packages that can then be used within the data quality portion of SAP Data Services. And that concludes our demo. So I'll switch back to the slides. So as I mentioned before, that version was 4.1 that we just saw, and that is the version that is currently in general availability. Version 4.2 is currently in ramp-up. No real word on when that will be available, but hopefully by the end of the year. Some new features that 4.2 will include are the Data Cleansing Advisor, which offers an additional type of data profiling known as content profiling, and that provides suggested meaning of data within the database based on the metadata about a column and also the actually inside that column. And the Data Cleansing Advisor is also able to make data validation rule recommendations as well as data cleansing package rule recommendations. Some other new features are that within Data Insight, you'll now be able to use custom views inside of lookup functions, and you'll also be able to use any customly created views within other views that you would like to create. And finally, the metadata integration, metadata management portion will now also support the Sybase Power Designer for that particular metadata as well. So to wrap up, some key points to take home. Remember that the installation of the product, Information Steward, is actually the easy part of a data governance project. Information Steward itself is a blank slate and needs to be configured. The business needs to drive your data governance program. Data is a corporate asset. You should treat it as part of your company's competitive advantage. And this is not just an IT project. IT is the facilitator. It's there to serve the business. The two need to be working together on this program. It may be better to have functional resources learn the Information Steward tool rather than try to have the IT program try to learn the business, simply because the technical prowess is not the most important skill set. Really, you're looking for people with soft skills and that want to collaborate. The functional resources within your company will plot the points on the chart to hit, and your technical resources should be the ones to connect those dots. Communication is absolutely essential. Remember that data governance programs constantly evolve, so make sure that communication continues even after a phase is complete. Make sure that a feedback loop is in place and it's consistently being used. And keep scheduling regular meetings or some kind of competency center to keep the conversation going. If you're just starting a data governance program, remember to manage your scope of that first project within the program. Don't try to boil the ocean, start small. And start with something with high visibility. Try to get a quick win to drive the value of the program and also build the momentum within your organization. Once you have that momentum, many other ideas and projects will come as a result of it. You just need to achieve that initial success and start generating buzz. Finally, ensure that your physical security model in SAP Information Steward mirrors your organizational needs. We didn't touch on this too much during the presentation or demo, but there are many predefined roles within Information Steward that your company can use, and new roles can always be configured to meet your needs. So how can DFT help? Well, we offer many different strategic services and technical services as well. Most importantly, the data governance program. Before we get into Q&A, I'd like to give the webinar attendees that we'll have a couple of more enterprise information management sessions the following 2 Tuesdays. So July 16th is a webinar on data migrations, best practices. And on July 23rd, we'll find out about social media and how to determine what your customers are saying about you. For some more information on SAP's Enterprise Information Management entire product suite, you can visit some of these websites. The top 2 are SAP Information. The bottom 2 are Decision First BI blog, as well as Jonathan Hahn's All Things Bob J. BI blog. And with that, I will turn it back to Steve.
Okay, great job, Rich. Thanks very much for an excellent presentation and demo. And now on to the question and answer portion of our event. As a reminder, to participate in the Q&A, just type your question into the text box located at the bottom right of your console. And we're going to answer as many questions as we have time for, and we do have a number of good ones here. Also want to remind the audience that we will have a survey at the conclusion of the webinar. If you could fill that out, we would greatly appreciate it. Thanks again for your participation. And so, Rich, looks like our first question here from Rehendra. Let's see. Do you prefer connecting to EC systems directly from InfoSteward, or do you get the data from ECC to a staging area and then connect it to InfoSteward? Mostly for profile.
Sure. Typically in the past, we've connected directly to the ECC systems, and that's actually dealing with client large volume of data. So we've found Information Steward handles the processing very well. So I would connect directly to the ECC system.
Okay. Let's see. A question here. Did you implement Information Steward for the client who is using DataStage as their ETL tool?
I'm not sure I completely understand that question. Could you read that again, Steve?
Okay, yeah, there might be a second part to this as I see here. So, did you implement Information Steward for the client who is using DataStage as their ETL tool and Business Objects as the reporting tool? Does that make sense?
Okay, sure, that does. I have never implemented it for a client that has used the DataStage as the ETL tool. We've certainly used it for clients with a Business Objects enterprise environment. And I know that DataStage is not natively supported within Information Steward, but it may be supported by the Metadata Information Management Bridge, which is the MIDI connector that was mentioned during the presentation. So to get a true answer for that question, I would visit the MIMB website and see if that particular tool is supported by the MIDI connector.
Okay, maybe okay, great, thank you. Let's see, another question here. Is it possible to apply a data quality rule between records of the 2 different systems, e.g. MDM and ECC, to ensure that the fields are consistent? And does this include both SAP and non-SAP systems?
Sure. The answer to both of those questions would be yes. You can apply data quality validation rules to tables or columns or any kind of data between different systems. And what was the second part of that again, Steve?
Well, he also just wanted to know, does this include both SAP and non-SAP systems?
Yes, it does. Anything supported by the Metadata Information Management Bridge is supported within this product.
Okay. This installation, is it on Windows or Linux?
That particular installation was on Windows. I know Linux is supported as well, though.
All right, great. And, oh, let's see, a couple more here. Dennis wants to know, can Information Steward be configured so everyone in the company intranet can view the metadata and Metapedia modules?
Yes, there are security rules to allow for viewership rights of both of those modules. There'd be the Metadata Management Viewer and the Metapedia Viewer. So that would allow anyone within the company to go in and take a look at both of those modules, any information that's present in those, without being allowed to make any changes to them.
Okay, thanks. Maybe, Rich, you can show on your screen just where else we can get for more information or your contact information from your PowerPoint. And
Sure.
we just have a few more minutes here. So Peter wants to know, can you link to a non-SAP system for performing data quality checks? And do you require staging to do this?
You can link to any of the main popular databases. I would recommend staging the data if it's coming from an application first, so staging that into some kind of staging database and then running those data quality checks on them. The one system that goes against that would be the ECC system that we mentioned previously. You can connect directly to that.
Okay, thanks. And then just a couple things. A number of people are asking for a PDF copy of the slides, and when will the recording be available? So the answer to both is in the next day or so. We will send an email to all attendees and even people that didn't attend with a link to the recording and a link to download a PDF of the slides. Jack wants to know, do you need an ETL?
ETL is not required to use the tool. An ETL repository can be integrated using the metadata management portion, but it's not a requirement at all to use the tool.
Okay, I guess his comment, just to follow up, was that he said it seems that the Information Steward is the ETL. Does that make sense to you?
It does make sense, and I'll say that Information Steward does perform any ETL. It only stores metadata about any data collection system, any database that you connect it to. So anything that is stored within the Information Steward repository is just metadata, except for the failed data records that failed the data quality validation rules. But there's also a limit to the number of failed data records that the repository encapsulates. So long story short, it is not an ETL tool. That would be SAP Data Service. That is the ETL tool.
Okay, great. Another question here from William. Do you need a full Business Objects Enterprise deployment to use Information Steward?
No, you do not need a full Business Objects Enterprise deployment to use it. You can actually set up your own separate SAP Enterprise Information Management deployment, which would not even be required to be connected to a BOE deployment. And with that EIM deployment, you could run both data services and Information Steward without connecting to a main BOE environment.
Okay, and I think we're going to squeeze in one more last question here from Janice. Is SAP ECC or SAP BW a requirement for using Information Steward?
No, neither of those components are required. So BW, ECC, Business Objects Enterprise, none of those are, no other SAP product is required in order to use Information Steward.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Excellent presentation and demo, and unfortunately that's all the time we have for today's broadcast. So if we didn't get to your question during this live session, someone else will follow up with you in the next few business days. So I want to thank you all for attending today's webinar, Maximizing Data Integrity with SAP Information Steward, hosted by SAP Insider, presented by Decision First Technologies. And shortly after this live event, we will send you that email reminder to access this presentation on demand with a link to download a PDF of the slides. And on behalf of our guest, Rich Hauser of Decision First Technologies, we want to thank you all for your time and have a great day.